Welcome back, everyone. This is the second video on how to create a scenario in Flashpoint Campaign Southern Storm. In this video, I'll show you how to create the order of battle for player 1. There was one thing I forgot to show you in the last video. There really was no set place to show this, so now is as good as any. And that is how to place a victory location on the map. To place a victory location on the map, select the hex where you want to place your victory location and right click on the mouse, and in the menu select Add, Edit, Remove Victory Point Location, the very first item. That'll bring up a dialog box where you can set the ownership of the initial ownership of the victory location, and you can also set the value per side that you want the victory location to be worth. And this is different than what we had in Red Storm. In Red Storm, the value was the same from both sides. In Southern Storm, the value can be different for both sides. We're going to keep it the same at 500. We're going to select the initial ownership for player 1. When you're happy with your selections, go ahead and hit the create button, and it will create a victory location in the hex that you had selected. Okay, picking up from the last video, we were on the additional scenario parameters page. Since we finished with that page, we're going to go ahead and press the next button, and it will take us to the next page, which is the page for creating the order of battle for player 1. The first thing that we need to do is set the name of our formation and the name of the commander and his rank. Underneath the Commander and Forces tab, there are 3 buttons. Create, Load, and Saved, which is grayed out at the moment. If you select the Load button, you can select a pre-made formation and commander. However, we're going to create our own from scratch. So let's go ahead and press the Create button. The first thing you need to do is select the National Error data file. Since we're creating an American force, we want the United States data file, which is what it defaults to. If you wanted a different nationality, it's a drop-down menu, and you can select whichever nationality you would like. But like I said, we want to create an American force this time. Okay, in the box that says that's labeled Name of Command. Well, before we go there, we want to select the icon for the force, and I'm going to select the 4th Mechanized Infantry Division. We're going to have a battalion-sized force, so we want a name that reflects that force. So we're going to erase the 4th ID's name, and we're going to make a Task Force 1-10. That's a battalion-sized unit. A battalion is commanded by a lieutenant colonel, and then you can type his name in to the right of his rank. It defaults to 1. If you don't like that one, you can put whichever name you want in there, or you can select the little S out to the right of the name block, and it will select a name for you. Every time you press it, it gives you a new name, and these names are random. Let's stay with Lieutenant Colonel Roberts. Okay, we are finished with this, and so let's select Proceed. So let's build our forces. We're going to build our first force, and the first thing that we need to do is click on the Create Force button. You're giving a dialog box where you can give the force a name. Each force must have a unique name. This force is we're going to call it, since this is the battalion headquarters, we're going to call this force the High Headquarters. Once you have the name, you click Proceed. Next, we want to add units to our force. On the left side of the TO&E box, there are a row of buttons. The first one is Add Units. That's the button we want. We will click on that, and that brings up a dialog box that allows us to pick formations and units to add to our force. The window on the extreme left side of this box lists all the formations and units that are available to this national data file that we have selected, the Americans. This should be familiar with people who built scenarios in Red Storm. We need to select a battalion headquarters. At the very top header, which is named Division 86 Formation 83 Plus, there are several subheadings below it. We want to select the battalion, and we want to expand it by clicking on the little greater than sign to the left of the word battalions. And this will drop down and show us the battalions and their subordinate units that are available. We want to build a mechanized force, so we're going to go down to the Mechanized Infantry Battalion, and we're going to click on the battalion headquarters. You'll notice when you click on these different formations and units that it fills in the boxes to the right. After selecting the battalion headquarters, we need to give this formation a name, this headquarters a name. And we're going to call it Headquarters Task Force 110. Once you type the name in, you want to click on the Update button. The window below that now reflects the name of the formation and the type of subunits that'll make up this unit. The window below this box will allow us to select the equipment that will be part of this force. This headquarters. We have to have a carrier. We want the Bradley, but we don't want the A2 version. We want the A1 version. To select it, select the box and put a little X in the box to the left of the name. You can scroll down and see what other equipment are available. We have the carriers, the Bradleys, and we have the M577s, which are the command vehicles, the command tracks. When you click on a piece of equipment, it is highlighted and comes up in the window to the extreme right. This is just like the subunit inspection that you have during the game, and in this window you can inspect the equipment that you selected. Since we have the equipment we want, let's go down to the button in the very below this, which says Add Headquarter Task Force 110 to High Headquarters. Click on that, and this adds this unit to our force that we had previously selected. When we are finished, we go ahead and select the button Done, and that takes us back to the TO&E page. Let's do another force. Let's create a second force. So once again, we click on the button Create Force. We're going to give it a name. This is going to be a mechanized company. So we're going to name this force A CO, Alpha Company. Let's go ahead and add our units to it. We're going to go back over to the Division 86 heading, go to battalions again. We're going to scroll down until we see Mechanized Infantry Company. We're going to click on that. We're going to give it the name Alpha Task Force 110. Update the name. We can see that we have the headquarters and we have 3 mech platoons underneath this one headquarters. Go to the equipment, select equipment section. Again, we want A1 Bradleys. Leave everything else alone if you want to. If there are different selections of equipment that you can choose from, you can use the subunit inspector to inspect each type of equipment to see the different weapons and sensors and other systems that they may have available to them. We're just going to keep what they have already selected for us. Go down to the Add button, click on that, add that to our force, and we're done. We now have a second force. Let's create another mech company. We're going to call this one Bravo Company. That's the name of the force. Go down and add units to the Bravo Company. Doing the same thing, Battalion, Mech Infantry Company. We're going to name it Bravo Task Force 110. Hit the update button. Select the A1 Bradley. Add to the force. Done. We want a third one. We want a Charlie Company. We're going to hit Create Force. Charlie Company. Add units. Go down to Division 86 Battalions. Mech Infantry Company. Charlie. Task Force 110. Update. Change the Bradley, the A2 Bradley to the A1 Bradley. Add the force. Done. You can see it's fairly easy to create a force. Now we're going to take a moment here to look at some features. The buttons on the extreme left side of the box here that are in a row. The Add Unit button, which we're familiar with. Underneath it is a Load button, which is grayed out at this moment. There's a Save button, a Rename button, and a Delete button. What these do, when you create a force, the Load button should become active, and if you click on that, if there's any pre-made force packages that you want to use, you can select that and it'll give you a list and you can choose one of those pre-made force packages. The Save button will save a force package so that you can use it later with the Load button. Let's say we want to rename our high headquarters. The Rename button allows us to rename it. You just click on it, you type in the new name, Headquarters 1-10, and that's now the name of the what was the high headquarters. Beware, once you start working on the battle planner with the battle planner, you can't start changing names of your forces. That can mess up your battle plans. Go back here and rename that to high headquarters. And the Delete button does just that. It will delete a force if you no longer want that force. We need to rename this unit. I messed that up, didn't I? Charlie Company. There you go. That looks better, doesn't it? Now then, there's a window that takes up the entire right side of the TO&E box. It defaults to, and this window does a couple of things. It defaults to what's called force roster, and here you can see all the units that make up a force. Here's the headquarters and the 3 companies. You'll notice there is a menu right below the counter. If you right click on that, it brings up a menu and that you can choose from. You want to look at the dashboard for this unit. It gives you that, the SOP manager, and the subunit inspector. Underneath that, you have unit parameters setup. If you click on this, and this is just like in Red Storm, you can edit the unit's parameters. You can change their training percentage, their readiness, their ammo percentage, and their morale. You want to start this unit in an inactive state, you can click on and set it to inactive. You can lock them in their setup hex if you so desire. If you want the unit to arrive as a reinforcement, you can set the minutes after the game starts as to when it arrives. If you want it to arrive an hour after the game starts, you set it to arrive 60 minutes. -1 means that it is not set. It means none. There is no, it'll be on the map at the beginning of the scenario. If you want them to withdraw from the map, from the game at a certain point, again, you set at what time in minutes that you want them to withdraw from the map. If it is a headquarters unit, which this one is, if you want to apply all these changes you've made to all of its subordinates units, you check this box right here. If this headquarters controls units that are in more than one force, you can click the box below it. After you make all your changes, you click the proceed button. There are other items. You can create a new force with this unit. If I were to click on this, I could create a new force with this headquarters. Let's do this. Let's go down and take their 3rd platoon. Let's create a new force with this unit. It asks for a name. We'll just call it new unit force. And it gives you a warning box here. In battle planning, if you add battle plan mission, and that is to remind you to add battle plan missions for this new force if you've already started making your battle plans. So if you look on the list of all your forces, here is the force, new force. We go up to A. I'm sorry, it was C. Go up to C. You'll notice that platoon is now missing. Pull up the new force here. Select menu again. Now then, we can also transfer this unit to an existing force. Let's move it back now to Charlie Company. And in Charlie Company, you'll notice the unit is there. This force is now empty, and what we want to do is we want to go ahead and delete that force. We can rename a unit. We can define ammunition loadout, and we'll talk about that more when we get to artillery. If you have located a unit either off map or on map, and you want to change it, you can reset the location to not deployed, and then redeploy it where you want it. And we can delete this unit and any subunits underneath it. Also, You look down here, we can detach and make this unit independent, and we can change the role of this unit. This is a maneuver platoon, an infantry platoon. It would be either main effort or a line unit. And these roles determines how the AI will use these units during the battle. Let's go back and create another force. Let's have some fun this time. Let's add another nationality to our order of battle. To do that, once again, select Create Force. We're going to add a West German tank company. We're going to name this force West German Tank Company. Go down to add, before you click on add unit, go up here to the National Air tab. We want West Germans. Click on West Germans and that will load the West German data file. Now click on add units, and now we're using the West German data file. We're going to go down here to, just like we did for the Americans, select battalion. Let's select a tank company. We're going to name this company First West German Tank Company. Hit the update. Come down here and let's select our equipment. We're going to want Leopard 2 tanks for this. Hit the add button, and we are done. And we now have added a West German Tank Company to our order of battle tree. One thing I didn't mention, if you want to add additional units to a force, you can do that. All you do is click on add units and go back in and select the units you want to add. And it will add it to the units that are already in the force. It will not delete any of the units that are already there. Let's go back over to our force roster window on the right side. And you'll notice up above it, it says Show Consolidated Order of Battle. If we click on that, it will change that window, and we now have an order of battle tree. And what we can do, we can subordinate our companies underneath our battalion headquarters. Now to do so, it's a drag and drop method. Down here below the tree, you'll see two selected items. One says resubordinate, and it's got a check mark by it, and it also has one that says reorder. We want to make sure that the resubordinate is selected, and how you do this is you grab the company you want, the unit you want. We're going to take the Alpha company first, we're going to drag it, and we're going to drop it into the headquarters for Task Force 110. Now you'll get a dialog box that asks you if you want to transfer the Alpha Company Task Force 110 into the High Headquarters Force. We don't want to do that. We want to keep it in its own unique force, so we select No. We're going to do the same thing for every company and select No each time. Now all of our companies are subordinated to the headquarters for Task Force 110. What I want to do next is I want to create an artillery force. So once again, click on Create Force. I'm going to call this one Arty for artillery. Add units. Now then, let's see. We have to find where the artillery is located. Let's look under Division 86 Assets, and what do you know? Here is a self-propelled artillery battalion. You're going to select that. We're going to rename this one to 4th Infantry Division Arty. You'll notice here is the headquarters for the artillery battalion, and underneath it are 3 artillery batteries plus some additional units, and these are your units that will act like your forward observers. Check the equipment list. We have M109A2s. Let's go ahead and add the artillery to the force. And here it is. Check the order of battle. If we want to, we could move this artillery battery underneath the task force headquarters, but we're not going to do it. We're going to keep it independent. We now have our forces and our order of battle set for our scenario. The next thing that we want to do is set the SOP for our units. And this is a very important step, and it's easily overlooked by when you're in creating a scenario. The players can set their own SOP in a game, but the AI cannot do that. So what you're doing is you're setting the SOP that you want the AI forces to fight with during the battle. And so to set the SOP, underneath the unit window, there is a button that says Set Default Unit SOP. Let's go ahead and select that button, and that brings up the SOP Manager dialog. Now in the top left corner is a unit icon, and that is the unit that is currently selected that you will change the SOP for. We want to start out with the task force headquarters. So let's go down, and the order of battle tree, we will select the headquarters for the task force, and then there's a button underneath the unit counter on the SOP Manager that says Inspect Selected Unit. So press that button to change the selected unit for the SOP Manager. Now we have the headquarters task force selected. Now the next thing to look at is the scope at the top of the manager, and it's set for default SOP for new orders. It has a drop-down menu, and underneath it you'll find the current orders that have been set for this unit. Current orders and future orders that have been set. Like if you have given it a movement order, all the waypoints will be on that, and you can make changes at each one. What you need to understand is that the default SOP is the SOP setting that the unit will default to when you change the order. Changing the default SOP will not change the SOP for the current order. You have to select the order that you want to change the SOP for. Let's go back for the default SOP, and let's change the default SOP for our headquarters unit. Okay, we want to keep the tactical initiative at generous. Acceptable losses, let's put it at minimum. Preferred standoff range, let's give it 3 hexes. For the fire discipline, we want to hold until fired on. We don't want them giving away their position. Relocate when, how about receiving any fire? Movement, we want to move concealment and to avoid NBC. So once you have your SOP set, you come back to apply to the buttons underneath on the come back to the buttons that are in a row on the left side of the SOP manager. You want to select apply to this unit only at the top, and this has now changed the default SOP for the headquarters unit. Now if you select and check the screen order for this unit, you notice it did not change the screen order at all. If you want to do that, if you want to set the default SOP for the screen order too, what you should do, instead of selecting the first button, go to the bottom of the row to the button that says apply to this and later orders. Select that. When you go back and you check the screen order, you'll notice that all the settings are now the same as the default SOP. Let's look at something else now. Let's open up our order of battle tree, and let's select the headquarters for the Alpha company. Once again, remember to select inspect selected unit. And now the Alpha headquarters, company headquarters, is selected. It's set for default SOP. Let's say we want to change all the units, all the units that are in this force. And underneath this headquarters, we want to set it all to the same SOP. So let's come up here. We're going to change the acceptable losses to substantial. 0 hexes for the standoff. Maximum range. Relocate when, let's say, after receiving direct fire losses. We want to avoid NBC. So to set all the units with this SOP as the default SOP, you go to the third button in the row that said apply to self and all subordinates. You click on that, and then you'll get a pop-up window that shows you all the units that has been updated with this SOP setting. Now this did not affect the screen order right here. If you want to set all the units, the screen order will come down, and we're going to apply to this for the headquarters unit, apply to this and later units. Come down and select the screen order, and then select apply to self and all subordinates. And now let's check a platoon. It has the same for the screen order. It has the same SOP settings now as its default as the headquarters has. One more example here. Let's say we have several tank companies in our order of battle, and we want all the tank units to have the same SOP setting. So let's go ahead and select the first platoon of the 1st West German Tank Company. Okay, we're going to set the acceptable losses to do or die. Preferred standoff range 0. Maximum, we're going to fire discipline maximum range. We want our tanks to never relocate. We want them to avoid NBC. Now we come back to the buttons on the far left side of the SOP manager. And this time we're going to select apply to all units of same type. So all tank units should receive this SOP with the default SOP. Click on that, and we have 3 tank platoons in our order of battle, and they have been updated with this SOP. We come down here and select the 2nd platoon. You'll notice it has the same settings. 3rd platoon has the same settings. However, it did not change the screen order. So let's go back to the default. We're going to do the same thing with this. Apply to this and later orders. Now the screen has those orders. With the screen order selected in the scope, come back and apply to all units of same type. Again, it selects the 3 tank platoons. Go back now and select one of the tank platoons. You'll see their screen order is now the same as the default order. Well, this is how you set the SOP and some shortcuts for you that you can use. Since we're finished now with the SOP order, let's go ahead and we're going to close out the SOP manager. We did not look at the artillery, but you can set their SOP later. The last thing that we need to talk about is how to place your units on the map once you have your forces in your order of battle tree set. And it's quite easy. First, in the order of battle window, go ahead and change it to your force roster. And we want to go ahead and select the force we want to put on first. And the force will be set up, the units will be set up by the force that they are in. And the setup areas that will be drawn for the force itself. Now, placing the units on the map here, we need to realize this is what the player will be presented with. So you need to think about how you want the players to see the map and their forces when they first load the game. And there's different ways you can do it. One of the things I like to do is I like the player to have to set his own forces up. And so I'll give them a setup area, and then I will just usually in a column place his units on the map and allow him to move them where he would like to have them. So the first thing we're going to put on the map is the high headquarters, the headquarters for the task force. Underneath the force name, change the TO&E tab to the setup tab. This allows you to draw the setup areas on the map. You want to make sure the create area button is selected and the paint button is selected. You can change the brush sizes if you want to. So what you do is you go over with the right mouse button and you can just draw on the map the setup area where you want it to be, and select the hex where you want the unit to appear in, be placed in, and then you go back to the force roster and you left click on the counter itself and it appears on the map. Let's now set up Alpha Company. Let's place Alpha Company down here, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw Alpha Company's setup area, and we're going to set it up here. In this area here. Again, select the hex where you want the unit to be placed and left click on the counter. And that's how easy it is to place the units on the map. Let's now set up Bravo Company. We'll put them up here. Now, let's pretend that we want the West German Tank Company to have the same setup area as our Alpha Company. What you do, go to the Setup tab, and this time go down to the bottom where it says Use Existing Area, and the button that says Select. Go ahead and select it, you get a pop-up dialog that gives you, and it shows you the setup areas by force that are on the map. The first one here is the setup area for the headquarters, the setup area for Alpha Company, the setup area for Bravo Company. We want them to have Alpha Company's setup area. You click on it and you click the proceed button, and now the West German Tank Company has the same setup area as Alpha Company. And you can see that. They have the same setup area. Now, one more thing we have to look at is our artillery. We want our artillery to be located off map. And to select and to place a unit in an off map area, you go to the menu underneath the counter in the force roster, right click on it. In the menu, go down to where it says set location to off map and edit distance away. And you select that. You get another pop-up dialog. And now it allows you to set this unit off map. The first, under the first line here, you set the north-south locations, and it's by kilometer. The second one is the east-west. Now then, if you want to see where the unit is located, click on where we want to see the coverage of the map with the artillery, where they can fire to. Click on the show range coverage on map. We're going to set the unit to the west of the map, and so we want a minus number. So we come over to over here, and you just start clicking. You notice the range circles are moving, the coverage that this unit can give, the artillery can give. Now, if the unit is still on map, the proceed button will not be highlighted. But once you move it off map, it's highlighted. I'm sorry, wrong direction. So now we can set the unit off map. Now this button is selected. It says apply same value to the subordinate. So if you want all the subordinate units under this headquarters to be set in the same location, you select that, you select the proceed button, and now all the units are set off map. That's okay for the artillery batteries themselves, but the forward observer units, you want them on map. So what we're going to do with them is you come down to the menu underneath the counter, you left click on it, and you come down to where it says reset location to not deployed. Let's click on that, select that, and now this unit right here is showing as not deployed. We'll do that for every one of these forward observers. Now we can place them on the map. Let's go ahead and draw their setup areas. By the way, I didn't show you this. You can erase a setup area by selecting the erase setup areas, and it's just the same procedure. So now we can place them on the map. Same way, you just select the location on the map and click the deploy button, or click the counter, excuse me. And all the units are now on the map or set off map. Well, I think that's enough for today. The next time we will go to player 2 and I'll show you an alternate way to create your forces when we set up the order of battle for player 2. So that'll be in the next video.